Hello everyone! Today I want to present to you a game between two legends, Boris Spassky and Bobby Fischer. I'm not talking about a game they played in the match against each other, but I'm talking about one game played few years before in the 1960 at the strong Mar del Plata festival in Argentina. Fischer tied for the fourth place with the Soviet star Boris Spassky. He scored 13.5 out of 15, winning 13 games, drawing 1, and losing 1 exactly against Boris Spassky. This was the beginning of their lifetime friendship. Let's have a look at the game. e4, e5, f4, King's Gambit. A very fashionable opening in the last 2 centuries. Black accepts the gambit, e take f4, knight f3, g5. We are in the main line of the King's Gambit accepted, and white plays here the move h4. Black replies with g4. Knight needs to go somewhere, and Spassky moves the knight to e5, attacking the pawn on g4 and also putting pressure on the critical point f7. Black plays the move knight f6, protecting g4 and counter-attacking e4. In the first game of this series, we saw here white playing the move bishop c4. But actually, the most played move in this position is the move that Spassky played, the move d4. White is not protecting the pawn on e4, but is counter-attacking the pawn on f4. In fact, knight take e4 is not really great here because white can take on f4, and after a move like d6, also g4 is hanging. That's why Fischer played here directly the move d6. Now the knight cannot take on g4 as both bishop and knight are protecting that pawn. The knight needs to go back to d3. Fischer took on e4 and Spassky took on f4. In this position, black is still as a pawn up. Fischer went on with the move bishop g7. A natural move, developing a piece and preparing to castle. Here Spassky made the first mistake of this game. Knight c3. This move seemed just a natural move, but is actually a clear mistake. After knight takes c3, b takes c3, Fischer can play here a very strong move, c5. Now, look at this bishop and how powerful it is. White here decides not to protect the pawn on d4, but to play the move bishop e2, counter-attacking the pawn on g4. The problem here is that black will take not just the pawn on d4, but also the pawn on c3. The game went on with c take d4, castle. White prefers to castle first and then to take on g4. Black played the move knight c6, protecting the pawn on d4, but also just developing the knight in a good square. Bishop take g4, very natural move. White is taking back at least 1 pawn. Here black played the move castle. White went on changing a couple of bishops on c8, bishop takes c8, rook takes c8, queen g4. The queen wants to put a bit of pressure on the bishop on g8 that is pinned, but still here we need to consider that white has just 5 pawns against 6 black pawns. And also here the c3 pawn is going to fall. Black played here the move f5, attacking the queen and forcing the queen to go back. Queen g3 and d takes c3. Black is just taking another pawn, is currently 2 pawns up, even if the pawn on d6 is pretty weak. And there is at the moment no problem related to the g file, because after a move like bishop h6, black could just reply with queen f6. So here, white went on with the move rook a e1, putting the rook on the open e file and bringing out his last piece. Black played king h8, the king is less vulnerable on the h file, and also the bishop on g7 is not pinned anymore. Also, white preferred to move the king away from the g file, playing king h1. Here, Fischer went on with the move rook g8. That's a fine move. It's putting a rook on the g file and wanting to create some threat against the queen. Actually, another interesting idea in this position could have been to play rook e8, trying to change a couple of rook. And in case of bishop take d6, actually black could try to play queen f6, wanting to play queen g6. All these moves, the idea behind all those moves is that black is a pawn up, so it would be good to simplify the position in a good way. And to change the queen on g6 would create a safer pawn structure for black. So this is definitely a good idea. Let's go back at this position because Fischer played here the move rook g8. Also here white played the move bishop take d6, taking back one pawn, but still white is a pawn down. Fischer plays the move bishop f8, a discovery attack to the queen on g3 that forced Spassky to play bishop e5 check. Here Fischer decides to change a couple of minor pieces, knight take e5, queen take e5, rook g7, and here there are two pawns hanging. Spassky decides to play rook f5, and after queen take h4 check and king g1, reach this endgame where black is a pawn up, but it's not so easy to convert this slight advantage into a winning position. Actually, soon we will see a huge mistake by Fischer after being ahead for the entire game. The game goes on with queen g4, threatening mate on g2, rook f2, protecting the mate threat, and here bishop e7. The idea is to activate a little bit this bishop that is not doing so much on f8, and also the rooks can be easily connected again. Spassky plays the move rook e4, attacking the queen, queen g5. Fischer would like to change the queens, but Spassky says no, queen d4. Actually, this move is extremely wise, because this is the moment that we were waiting for. A huge mistake by Fischer is incoming. Rook f8. So now I spoiled it already. This position is winning for white. Can you find the winning move for Spassky? You can stop the video if you wish to have more time. Rook e5. What a brilliant move. Here the queen doesn't have too many opportunities. If queen h4, we have rook take f8, bishop take f8, and the queen is gone. So let's go back to this position. Let's see if the queen goes to g4. Also here, at least one piece will leave. So queen takes g4, rook take g4, and rook take e7. And white enjoys an endgame with a piece up. So in this position, the only move that Fischer has to play a bit longer is rook d8. Here Spassky just moves the queen to e4, and now the threat is again the same. But there is a difference, because after queen h4, now it's not possible anymore to take on f8. So is Fischer safe? No. There is the move rook f4 here. And this is the last move of the game, because the queen cannot go anywhere without leaving this bishop unprotected. That's why Spassky won this game, as Fischer resigned here. I hope you liked it. If yes, consider checking next week's video for another brilliant classic game. See you then!